Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome. Well, here where I am, it's Friday evening, and I don't really know where you are from, but it's very exciting to even think about that you are there all over the world in different countries, continents, different time zones, different schools. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I think we can wait for a couple of more minutes for more people to join, and until please welcome Vikas Pota and his team on the screen.
Hello, my name is Vikas Pota. The reason why we're organizing this global showcase for World Education Week is we believe that schools have incredible expertise in making sure that learning outcomes improve. Given the state of the world, we want to see the expertise from this particular school being replicated in schools all over our planet so that the world becomes better for everyone. That is why I congratulate this school for what it does and hope that those listening can take away conclusions as to how they should actually approach their own improvement journeys. Thank you all for participating, and I look forward to seeing you in many of the other events this coming week. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for supporting this incredible work, without whom we couldn't have put together this global showcase. Thank you, and I wish you well for this event.
Fast-paced social, economic, and technology-driven change is redefining our world. And having a broad range of skills, such as creativity and problem-solving, has become far more important than being able to memorize information. To redefine how our children learn, and to empower them for the future, parents, teachers, and policymakers must stop overlooking a powerful part of the solution: learning through play. Play is the rocket fuel of child development, and there is a growing body of evidence to support that play is fundamental for children's positive growth and well-being over time. It is also an essential way to foster the skills required to thrive in today's world. The LEGO Foundation aims to build a future in which learning through play empowers children to become creative, engaged, lifelong learners. To do so, we work with a range of partners around the world to change the hearts and minds of all of those who influence children's lives through our programs, research, and advocacy, so they can all embrace the transformative power of play. Examples of what we do include making sure that caregivers, practitioners, and policymakers understand the importance of play, investigating, testing, and scaling new ways to bring play-based learning into homes and schools, using play to help millions of the world's most vulnerable children cope with adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress, or conducting research with some of the world's leading research institutions. Please visit our website and follow us on social media to learn more.
Language connects us all. It's how friendships are formed, ideas are shared, and lessons are learned. Language is how we find understanding and express love. It's how we communicate our successes, both big and small. It lays the groundwork for learning and growth. And for an increasingly diverse student population, it can be the key to achievement in school and beyond. That's why Rosetta Stone Education is dedicated to language and literacy. We offer solutions designed to support teachers and bilingual students, recognizing and celebrating the knowledge, culture, and languages they bring to our classrooms. Our products are founded on the adaptive blended learning model for individual needs, continuous progress monitoring for better learning outcomes, and culturally responsive pedagogies for more inclusive classrooms. With solutions aligned with proficiency standards, We support language learning while exploring academic subject areas, paving the way to better outcomes. Because for all of us, language is everything.
Dear T4 community, we talk a lot about teachers these days, but we rarely listen to them. Therefore, I am truly excited to join the T4 World Education Week to hear from teachers and school leaders all over the world how we can impact learning together. I'm particularly looking forward to the global showcase. 100 schools sharing their expertise and best practices, I believe, will be a huge motivation for other schools around the globe. I'm equally impressed by the T4 Solutions Challenge, its finalists and their solutions to real-world issues in education. This gives me hope that we can, together, turn around education globally. The Jacobs Foundation is a proud supporter of the T4 World Education Week because we share a vision to reimagine learning and education by bringing together the brightest people who understand how children learn. Let's do this together.
Exactly, let's do this together. That's why we are here tonight. Thank you, Wikas and T4 team for having us here. It really is an amazing opportunity, and thank you for bringing so many educators, experts, teachers together from really all corners of the world. It's an honor to be part of this event, especially the Global Showcase with our speakers here tonight, who are going to talk about storytelling in our digitalized 21st century. Before we start, let me tell you to post on social media about this great event. We appreciate if you post about this specific presentation as well. And when you do so, don't forget to use the World Edu Week hashtag on your post. And one more practical thing is that there's on the right side of the screen, there's a panel where you can ask your questions during the presentation. Sorry, we are very looking forward to your questions that we will answer at the end of the discussion. So, as I said already, we are here from all over the world, from different cultures, different countries, continents, possibly from different age groups as well. But I think all of us has a very sweet memory of our mother, grandma, grandpa, favorite teacher reading us or telling us a story, a folk tale, a fairy tale, whatever it might be. I think we can agree that stories, storytelling, and books and literature, it plays an extremely important role in people's life. They remind us of our past, of our traditions, of our values. They transmit these cultural heritages as well. They teach lessons. This is for many people the first opportunity to meet new countries, new landscapes, new kind of people. It really opens our eyes to the beauties of the world, even to the difficulties. They of course entertain or simply just ease our minds. Therefore, they strongly influence our personalities. I think this is something, again, that we can all agree on, that storytelling and stories, they do influence our personalities. It enables personal improvement as well, such as psychological, affective, cognitive, and social development. They play a big role in creating empathy in us, in developing emotional intelligence, and a lot of very useful skills that are actually becoming more and more important in the 21st century. Today, our lives are kind of taken over by screens and digital devices, but we believe that storytelling must remain in education. And it's a great advantage that with technology and with digital tools, we can bring storytelling into education and maybe make it play an even bigger part of teaching. At today's presentation, we have two speakers here with us, Kinga and Lati, and they will talk about this subject, how to implement these digital tools and storytelling into education, how you can play this role even more importantly, and what kind of solutions, what kind of practices you can use to build in these 21st century skills into your education, such as creativity, social emotional skills, cognitive skills, or critical thinking. So we have the two speakers here today from Hungary, from the Dual Language School of Balatonalmadi. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Hungary, but this school is actually by the Lake Balaton, which is the biggest lake of Central Europe. As Hungarians, we are very proud of it. We call it the Sea of Hungary. And that's where this very prestigious school is, where they teach in Hungarian and in English. Our first speaker will be Kinga. Kinga is an English teacher at the Dual Language School of Balatonalmadi, and she's also content development specialist at an edtech startup. Currently, she teaches English and US civilization courses for students between the ages 14 and 17. During her career, she has gained experience working with various age groups and developed the preference of digitalized classrooms and language learners' personal development, WTC, and soft skills. So she's going to be the first one to give you a deeper insight into storytelling in our digitalized 21st century. Kinga, floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Right, hello everyone. I'd like to start with the introduction of our school, and then I'll talk about the way our school was able to rethink and digitalize storytelling, stories and narratives. Here is the first slide of our school. Our institution is a state-run bilingual secondary school founded in 1988 with the help of American and British governments. The school enables students to participate in a language preparatory year, and then they can continue their studies and learn some subjects in English. For example, world history, civilization of English-speaking countries, and even chemistry. At the end of the 5th grade, they take A-level school living exams and gain a C1 level language exam. The students become confident speakers of English and ready for higher education. DLSB has always had a good reputation due to the well-structured curriculum and the quality of teaching. Students from all over the country apply for our program, beginners as well as students at more advanced proficiency levels. Linguistic skills are not assessed before admission, so students work in groups of mixed ability, which teaches them to be empathetic, open-minded, helpful, cooperative, and hardworking. This is a very efficient system, as 99% of them continue their studies in higher education and about 30% of them abroad. How is this possible for beginners? Well, these students do everything to acquire English and be part of our community. We, as teachers, try to give full attention and all the help we can to facilitate this. For example, during the preparatory year, students are divided into groups of 12 and they are provided with quality input 18 lessons a week. 10 of these lessons are with the team leader teacher who takes care of the students basically, and the 8 other lessons are with different teachers. This way they can get used to different teaching styles, learn new strategies, techniques, adaptability and openness, as all the teachers and all the students are different. In these small groups, with so much time on our hands, students can thrive. They are able to communicate freely, ask questions, raise problems, share ideas, tell about themselves or their stories, what happened to them, what are their difficulties. The school puts great emphasis on narratives and stories in teaching in both senses, as first, it's quality input and a greater quantity of output from the part of the students. The school has always chosen only the best course books and extra materials, for example, graded readers. However, they have always been in a print format with the recordings on a CD or a downloadable software on school computers. Well, the 21st century brought huge changes in education. Digital materials have become accessible, more and more widespread, popular, and the amount of resources has grown, and the need and the requirements in teaching has grown too. You might have already experienced this pressure too as a teacher. We all need to focus on motivation, engagement, communicative skills, the willingness to communicate, cultural competence, intercultural communication, autonomy, critical thinking, and other soft skills like empathy and cooperation. We've never ignored these, but they are gaining more and more importance in our everyday lives, fortunately. Therefore, and I know you will agree with me, language teaching should become more integrated and holistic. Teaching materials should shift from teaching language structures and vocabulary items to more complex skills, higher level thinking, and more sophisticated experience overall to engage and improve students. And for this, digitalized materials are wonderful means, such as the Quizlet flashcard sets that pronounce the words we type in, the Kahoot quizzes that create a very competitive context for learning, and for example, Book or Class, which is a digitalized library. Our school started using Book or Class because it makes it possible to bring together our communicative storytelling tradition and 21st century skills. The stories of the digitalized books offer meaningful content and authentic language. The pages include the text and illustration, animation, and narration, which is the new generation of readers, in my opinion. It is quality input with the correct pronunciation. The stories are informative, often teaching about cultural aspects of the world. For example, in the picture you can see a Native American myth, but we have books about geography, the sites, traditions, Benjamin Franklin. So, and also other types of books with folk tales and more classics like The Little Prince. The app provides the students with narratives and ideas that make them think, reflect, and create. For example, there are classic stories from La Fontaine, the fables, there are folk tales where the students can come up with ideas, their opinion, problem-solving skills. They can invent new endings to the stories if it is a creative writing or speaking session. And there are two extra features as well, games at the end of the stories, which assess performance, usually comprehension skills, reading comprehension, but there are some extra exercises for grammar, vocabulary, communicative tasks, and fun activities as well. And there is a teacher platform to monitor students' achievement and activity. As our groups at DLSB, the Dual Language School of Balatonalmadi, they are mixed ability. We need to pay special attention to the performance and well-being of students. We often give extra lessons, give extra tasks to practice, but they are a lot of extra work for us teachers. I know you can relate. I think the whole teaching community is eager to find tools that help us in differentiation. Book or Class is a great means for that, for example, because the books are at 6 different levels. which means that the students themselves or the teacher can choose books from a wider variety. Some teachers like using the app as an extra activity for fast students in class. Some prefer to use easier books for the students who need more support, more time with the language, or extra input in some cases. You can switch off the narration, which makes the learners rely and improve reading skills, while using the app as an audiobook improves listening skills. And from the stories, students can take what they can or what they want. Some understanding always occurs. Language-wise, students can decide how much they rely on, for example, visual support. Individual differences might also appear in the deeper understanding and interpretation of the texts. For example, you can turn your class into a storytelling session or a performance where students take part in role plays based on the narratives or stories they have read, or they can give the voices to the characters. Students can express their opinion, their feelings, and themselves in general. And this variety is something we can appreciate and encourage every day, all year long. And to facilitate the personal, social, and linguistic improvement of students, the right input is essential. With the help of technology, providing the best resources and materials has become a lot easier. We can find materials at different levels, in different frames, different topics, different aspects. We don't have to stand by the copying machine with a bunch of different texts and exercises to print and to multiply. Digital sources are here for us.
Thank you so much, Kinga. And everyone, I encourage you to ask your questions in the Q&A. I would love to hear if you struggle with the same problems, with photocopies, with difficulty to engaging students, or how it is in your school. So feel free to share it with us in the Q&A section. Thank you, Kinga. Our next speaker is Laci. He as well works as an English teacher at the Dual Language School of Balatonalmadi, and he pursues PhD studies at the University of Pannonia. Besides these, he's also a self-employed teacher, private tutor, and materials writer. He is currently serving his second term as International and Publications Coordinator at ITEFL Hungary. His main research interests include, but are not limited to, 21st century skills, authenticity in the classroom, CPD, materials writing, and using technology in the classroom. So I think there is not a better person to go deeper with you in the subject of 21st century skills and technology in the classroom. Laci, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, for this nice introduction. So before I go on with my part of the presentation, let me just quickly reflect on what Anna and Kinga has already mentioned. For example, the fact that changes in today's society have definitely brought about certain needs that we as teachers or educators nowadays have to cater for in the classroom. And this also brings along with it a certain need for some methodological changes. This is what I'm going to elaborate on in just a second. And as Kinga has already introduced our school very nicely and in a very well detailed manner, let me just remind you that the requirements at the school, since it's a bilingual school in Hungary, and students are expected to take a bilingual school leaving exam. This is what we call the Matura exam, or érettség in Hungarian, but probably this is not the most relevant information for you at this point. The point that I'm making is that besides taking an A-level, an advanced level school leaving exam in English, students at our school are also required to take subjects either at advanced or ordinary level in English. And this is why we are providing history, biology, or civilization lessons, or even mathematics, both in English and Hungarian. But it's also very important to keep in mind that our society is changing, and this 21st century society brings about certain skills that our students have to master and have to be able to utilize in their everyday life. These are, for example, as we have already mentioned, collaboration, cooperation, creative thinking, as well as doing, in my opinion. That's very important. Certain computer skills, etc. But we're going to reflect on that in just a minute. It's also very important to keep the learners or students engaged throughout their learning experiences. So nowadays, teachers or educators have also assumed this role of a so-called facilitator, the facilitator of learning experiences, where we, compared to the traditional sense of being a teacher, we are more like counselors or tutors or even coaches in some cases when it comes to language learning, and we kind of guide through learners and students their own learning. Since our globalized world also requires young people to become real global citizens, we also need to make sure that they are prepared for that as well upon leaving the school. And this is why it's important to have them make their voices heard, be heard, and also to have them make an impact on their local or global communities. Plus, to function very well in this changed society, it's important to be able to understand different cultures that surround students or learners. So this is why I would like to mention, besides technology, another very important aspect of 21st century learning, which is the methodology called CLEAR, which is content and language integrated learning. And especially at our school in Balatonalmadi, we put an increased and heightened emphasis on CLEAR as a methodology, since in our different subjects that are taught in English, we integrate content as well as learning throughout the courses and throughout the learning. So CLEAR is actually something, methodology that very nicely integrates the different C's or 21st century skills, which I have just mentioned. It makes students to cooperate and collaborate with each other, but also makes students more aware of their learning and their own academic progress. So this is how we can also make our students a bit more autonomous through doing research using technology, for example, on the internet or from any other source that we have available at school. Plus, CLEAR, since it's content and language integrated approach, can also integrate what we know and how we see society and the world around us. CLEAR basically has two different types. One of them is called hard CLEAR, which is, for example, when a concrete subject is taught in English, and English is just an medium of instruction or a means of instruction, or soft CLEAR, which actually happens within the language classroom, and the language classroom integrates the different content through readings, different tasks, and exercises. So since I am an English teacher, I also teach English, of course, and US and UK civilization at the school. And for example, through many CLEAR activities, we like to provide students the opportunity and the chance to express themselves in as creative ways as they possibly can. For example, this is what I asked my students to do at one of my civilization courses when we were discussing the different national parks of the US. They were provided some input, resources on the topic, and they had to choose, for example, one of the national parks, and they had to create a nice poster or some form of a presentation on this topic, which we then also used, for example, in the school as hallway decorations or any other informative means. So this is an example of hard clear, which usually happens in classrooms where content is taught through a foreign language, in this case English, but the language itself is not the sole focus of learning. Now let's have a look at what we can do in language classes, for example, when we are discussing certain global issues. Once again, this is just an approach on different global issues that are very important to talk about. Or if we are very techy, for example, my students have already become quite techy throughout the years or the course of years that I've worked with them. They also sometimes design for example, menus for bars. If there's a bar project that they have to put together their own bar and design it and basically create a whole business plan of what their bar or their restaurant is going to look like. Some of them can even take it to quite an extreme by designing the place itself. So this is where CLEAR really kicks in the language classroom as well. And this is how technology can be used in a completely different way, and not just as a means of entertaining or engaging students, but also as a means of creation. If we just think of social media, nowadays we are not just looking at our screens, reading the certain information that we can find there, but we are also producing information when we post something or when we create something new. And here are some further ideas how we can extend this whole CLEAR methodology and the whole experience of cultural and immersion in general, not just in the language, but also the culture, our word, and what we can use and utilize that are within easy access or within our easy reach. For example, at DLSB, we have certain thematic days. Like at Halloween, we have a Halloween hall. Unfortunately, due to the Corona situation, we're not going to hold that, but we might be able to repeat last year's escape room, Halloween escape room, which is designed by our teachers, and it always involves some kind of task which is aimed at improving their language skills in English, for example. At Thanksgiving, for example, we organize a quiz and a bake sale to further extend their students' learning beyond the classroom and not just within the classroom. Or we have Valentine's Day night, where besides playing ball, they also have certain rooms with different themes. So these are thematic rooms where students can broaden their horizons on the celebration itself. And in the civilization lessons, we also introduced some extracurricular projects and works. For example, students can get to know the English-speaking word through CLEAR and through autonomous learning by creating posters or certain decorations for our hallways, especially at Christmas time, but even Guy Fawkes Night, White Hungary Day, etc. So these are not just limited on either the UK, Australia, or the US, but we try to be as inclusive as we can to really fit into the mindset of CLEAR and looking at the word from a bird's eye. So really getting to know the cultures that we are surrounded by. But also students have the opportunity to attend events at the Regional American Corner, which is run by the American Embassy, and they can participate in conversation clubs and also attend events which are organized by the American Corner as well. So I think this was it from my part. I would like to thank you for your attention, and once again, as Anna has already mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them. And I think this is my time to pass the torch back on to Anna. Thank you very much once again for the attention.
Thank you very much, Lottie, for the presentation. And indeed, we received many questions. I am personally very happy about them. We even received lots of likes on the questions. So Lottie, I think you also see them. Please read them while I start to ask some of them. And everyone else who is watching us, please really don't hesitate to ask your questions or give your feedback or your personal experience on storytelling, CLIL, and digitalization technology in the classroom. Let's see. I found a very interesting one. How can we attract teenagers with storytelling in language learning? Kinga, what do you think?
Well, I have worked with teenage boys. It wasn't easy. It's always a challenge, especially if they are a bit naughty, but usually teenagers are very creative. Their personality is forming at that moment, even in the classroom. So it's great fun to work with them. Storytelling, in a sense that reading a fairy tale with students who are teenagers is not the best method. And of course, it raises many questions. But for example, what I did, I have books which are the opposite of the classic tales. For example, I brought The Three Little Wolves and The Big Bad Pig for my teenage students, which was great fun for them because they came up with ideas what might happen to the little wolves, but they didn't know, they had no idea. And the book was very creative with the methods, how the big bad pig tried to destroy the concrete house the little wolves built. So alternative tales, alternative stories are a great means. Or if you bring a classic story or tale, you can ask them to turn it into something alternative, something creative, or come up with something which is maybe intriguing or scandalous, or states a very strong opinion they are sure to disagree with, which generates ideas and conversation. So it might be, in my opinion, either a really fun part, which is unexpected, or something that really makes them think and want to say something and want to act and express their opinion. So these are my two tips for you.
We have, in my opinion, a bit similar question. How to motivate students who hesitate or shy away to interact or express their feelings?
Yeah, I think it's a huge problem. In Hungary, language learning is a challenge. Hungarian language is very special. It has nothing to do with English or German or other languages in Europe, basically. So it's quite easy, quite difficult for the students to start learning, start pronouncing it. And there are some students who are extremely shy. I always have students who are great at lessons, they perform well on tests, yet they are not really eager to communicate, especially not in front of the classroom. So tip number one, make them work in groups, small groups or in pairs with people they like, with people they trust. Tip number two, try to find their interests. try to find something they like in particular. There are students who are really open-minded and who enjoy all the activities you bring in. And then there are students who need more input or stronger input to make them want to act. I think sometimes it's a really long process, so I don't have the secret ingredient there, but I would suggest definitely to try to make it maybe a bit more personal for them, something they enjoy doing in their free time, and come up with a story, or invent a story that has happened, or tell a story that has happened to one of your friends and explain how you felt. So it might generate some feedback from those shyer students as well, because empathy and active listening are crucial parts of English lessons, because English lessons are not only language lessons, they are also about sharing and understanding each other, not only the challenges during teaching and learning, but also the personal experiences.
Thank you so much. And the questions keep coming. Let's see. In your experience, what skills storytelling improves the most? Whoever wants the question.
Well, I would say definitely reading comprehension, of course, evidently. Also, if you use the application that we started to use, the Bookar class, then the listening skills as well. And as you read, it is like an accidental learning process. You just internalize some of the structures, some of the vocabulary. So, and then they just pop up when you are in a situation and you realize that this is something that you can use. So I would say that communicative skills or the communicative competence is also improved by reading. And I would say the same goes for writing. If you read different types of texts, different genres, different, for example, authors, then some of their style, some of their language use. If students read a lot of stories and fairy tales in the past tense, they will be more proficient in rewriting stories, for example, or telling stories in the classroom by themselves, even if they use the chunks that they have acquired during reading.
Thank you. And actually,
Anna, sorry,
yes,
may I just add something to this question from my perspective with the clear? So actually, besides just the language content, what you could also do potentially with a story or with the text is that, for example, in some of my groups who I didn't really see much cooperation going on with, what I did is that I set a kind of reading for them that they had to read for class. And without saying anything in English, what I asked them to do in the first lesson was to work together in front of the whiteboard and draw the story. It didn't matter how much they drew from the story, but everyone had to contribute, even with the shortest of a line on the board, and they had to visualize whatever they read for the class the other day. So this is when you can use stories in a way that it's not just about the language, but these 21st century skills that we talked about, for example, like cooperation, as Kinga also mentioned, empathy, like letting the other ones also draw at least one line on the board and not just doing it all by yourself. So you can also look at stories in a way where you actually work with the students and on their soft skills and interpersonal, intercultural skills as well.
Very good, thank you. I think we have time for about 3 more questions, and I have 2 that's already related to what you were talking about. So maybe, Lassi, you can share your ideas about how readers can be turned into collaborative activities, because that's kind of what you...
Oh yeah, so basically, this is the whole idea. Like, so nowadays, because of the different changes taking place in the society and in teaching methodology, I think it's really time to move away from a teacher being just a teacher of a language or some kind of content, but also how we can work with students to have them grow up and develop as human beings. And this is why sometimes tasks which are not specifically directed at the language or mathematics, biology, or any kind of subject really need to take a kind of step forward. And sometimes you can use your class time to not only teach the language or teach the content or the subject itself, but also to have students grow and develop themselves as human beings, really.
Great, thank you. And one other question that's related to what you were talking about is about the platform you mentioned, Booker Class. We received a question asking how you can implement Booker Class in the curriculum.
Okay, shall I just go with this one as well? Okay. So for example, to give you a practical example of civilization lessons, because that's one of my fields at the school, is that this application has a very nice series on UK civilization, for example. And I ask my students to read these books either as a kind of introduction to the topic we are going to discuss, or as a kind of wrap-up material after we have gone through a certain topic, and to just really pinpoint the most important or the most crucial information. And this way they can practice in a more engaging and probably a more colorful way. Because also one of my students has mentioned, because King also mentioned Quizlet, for example, as another possible technology or a technological device or an application. My students very often say that I was just waiting at the bus stop, I didn't have anything to do, so I just started going through the flashcards in Quizlet. And they did the same with Booker Class. Whenever they were bored or had an extra 5 minutes to spare and they weren't doing anything else, they just opened the application, read a book, did something, and then just moved on with their lives, really. So it's really a mobile and a portable device to use for accidental learning, as well as Kinga mentioned.
Accidental learning, I love that expression. I guess that's something that we would all aim for as teachers. Okay, time is flying by. I'm happy to say that. So the two last questions before we summarize what we heard and we move on to the next school, if there is any. Let's see, I think that one is an important one. How do tales fit into bilingual education? Kinga.
Yes, well, partly this is answered by Lotzi, who said that there are several books specifically, well, if not written, then really what fit into the curriculum. For example, when you teach about civilization, which is a compulsory course in bilingual schools. But if you think about the technical part of it, I would say that they are definitely good for, first of all, as a homework or as an extra activity, or in class. For example, if you want to teach the past simple, you simply pick a story which you like, which you think fits or suits your students, and then you can start the lesson with the story as a great input, and then try to explain and teach about the structure, for example, and the rules, or you can simply let them explore the book and the content. Maybe you don't even want to explain exactly the rules of the structure. It really depends on your teaching style. That's the wonderful thing about it, that you can use it as you like. Or, for example, if you pick a topic you would like to discuss, then it's very simple, because you can ask them to work in groups, create a one-pager or a presentation on the topic. There are books about food, and there are books about famous people. There are the Sherlock Holmes stories everybody knows. So I think that the opportunities are really limitless.
Great, thank you. You know, like muting and unmuting yourself always gives a challenge to look for the button. So the very last question, I think we have approximately 2-3 minutes to answer, but it's very important. We cannot pass by this, is of course the new situation, well, thanks to Corona and Corona fear. Latsi, we would like to know your opinion on this. So the question is, because of this Corona fear, do you think schools should come up with a better strategy to teach children virtually? Or do you think resuming schools with a fear of coronavirus is the best we can do to our children?
Well, this is a very complex question to answer, and probably I just cannot give a straightforward answer to this, but it's definitely important to be alert and be prepared all the time. For example, what we're experiencing at the school is that we are not plainly teaching online, so we have not gone digital at this point, but what we are experimenting is the hybrid learning. So we are kind of mixing digital education with face-to-face contact lessons. So for example, if one student or two students are missing, we open a call on, or we start a meeting on Teams, for example, and we let the students participate from a distance in the classes that we have with the others at school. The biggest challenge of this is that we find it a bit difficult to be inclusive with those who are learning from home or who are at home, but we're trying our best to involve those people as well who unfortunately cannot attend the lessons in person due to certain reasons. But I definitely think what we really need at this point is not fear, it's not like anxiety, being a bit more positive and trying to look for solutions we might not even think of otherwise. So just being open and a bit experimental, I think at this stage is a key.
Thank you so much. Thank you for both of you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you again for the T4 World Education Week team for organizing this event. We appreciate the many questions that we received. We have 4 more minutes to close, and I would like to summarize what I think we learned during the session. It's not easy because it was so many brilliant ideas and so much inspiration. I was trying to take some notes as well. So what we definitely saw is that storytelling, CLIL, and technology goes very well hand in hand. Language learning itself already integrates many 21st century skills, such as communication, empathy, cooperation, cognitive skills. But with the practices that Latsi and Kinga just mentioned, these can be further enhanced and improved. You can use different techniques to enhance these skills. For example, we saw that storytelling can play a very important role depending on the group, on the learner's level, pace, and needs. You can choose different techniques. You can personalize the instructions, and this way you can always come up with different solutions for different groups. We also saw that with storytelling and CLIL and technology, you can bring in cultural input into your classrooms, which is becoming more and more important. They need to have the civilizational knowledge, they need to have the cultural background to become open-minded, openly communicating people. Also, storytelling, CLIL, and technology, they are all related to edutainment. Edutainment is very important in engagement, and engagement is very important in facilitating learning. And another advantage that all these tools have is that they don't just stay in the classroom, but they go beyond the schools as well. With these technologies, digital tools, we can stay with our students even outside of the classroom. They can be connected despite of the physical distance. And I believe that it's important to mention that it even reduces their impact on the environment and raises awareness on sustainability. So thank you so much, Kinga and Latsi, for sharing your experience with using technology, storytelling, and CLIL, the importance of this. Thank you, everyone, for your comments as well. We keep receiving them actually. I'm posting them right now, so all of us, you can see it. Thank you again, and have a very nice evening, night, morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much.